legislation, and he's an attorney. So, welcome, Gary.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Gary Lindsey. Say it again. Half of my presentation was already taken up by Denise, and I appreciate that, so I can get some the nitty-gritty on this. Long story short, I see a lot of people, based on looks in their eyes, after almost 2 years, now they're wondering what is going on. And they're looking for answers.
Hold the microphone up, please.
They're looking for answers, and I'll let you know I'm the guy that'll tell you what the answers are. I'll tell you the stuff that the lawyers won't tell you. I'll tell you the stuff the judges won't tell you. I'll tell you documented stuff you can see for yourself that the politicians won't tell you. Period. Why is the mask coming off? Not the one on the kids, but the one with the government and the businesses, where it used to be donuts and lottery tickets. Now it's obvious blackmailing threats, extortion. Okay, everybody knows something's very wrong. Very wrong. And often when I'm in the presence of the Freedom Angels, I feel that I actually have to go there and just lay it all out. So that is what I am going to do, because I see in the eyes of many, that's what you want to hear. So with that, I am going to skip through most of the discussion of legislation. By the way, this is not legal advice. You're not my client. This is for general information. I guarantee you nothing. Let's get that out there. These are only solely my views when it comes to the legal stuff, and not the views of any organization or any other person. So I'll skip on through here. So with that, am I blocking it, by the way? Sorry if I am. There are only 2 pieces of legislation that I wanted to talk to you about. If I'm going on here. Okay, it's a slideshow thing. Oh, there we go. Here we go. I'll act like I know what I'm doing. Okay. So let me get to the slides in here. So get to, sorry. So, I'd like to talk about AB 262. Denise mentioned it a little bit. One thing I'll only mention about it, and you can see it on the screen. Tell me if I'm wrong. That is written so broadly that a public health officer can order someone else in the county, sheriff's deputy, so on, to forcibly inject you. Tell me I'm wrong. Who's going to tell me I'm wrong? Who's going to say I'm wrong based on how broadly that's written?
Can you read it out loud now?
Yeah, oh, sorry. The local health, this is Health and Safety Code section 120175.5 sub B, which was added by AB 262. This is back in October 2019, around the time of Event 201, for those who know about Event 201. Very convenient, huh? The local health officer may issue orders to other governmental entities within the local health officer's jurisdiction, county, to take any action. Where's the constitutional limits? Where's the limits by other statutes as to your various rights? There isn't. The local health officer deems necessary. The local health officer deems necessary. So by dictate, to control the spread of the communicable disease. So it's up to the judgment of the local health officer. So anyone who want to argue with me as to whether or not county officials, just because the local health officer says so, couldn't theoretically be ordered to forcibly inject you?
Fourth Amendment, freedom of our person,
Right.
of our person, our property.
Right. But does it seem like we've been going by the Constitution for a while now?
No.
No. That's my point. So I'll move on to SB 742. This has to do with the vaccination sites, including schools, that Denise mentioned before. And while it does have some very typical language that you would think that that's threats and so on that would be criminalized, The very interesting thing about this is as to the harassment portion. That if you're approaching someone within 100, well, you just read it. It's unlawful to knowingly approach within 30 feet of any person while a person is within 100 feet of the entrance or exit of a vaccination site and is seeking to enter or exit a vaccination site or an occupied motor vehicle seeking entry to exit to a vaccination site for the purpose of, and I'll jump to the pertinent one, harassing that person or vehicle occupant. Now let's take a look at the definition of harassing that was added, that I have here in bold. Harassing means knowingly approaching without consent, so just walking up to somebody, giving them a handbill, that kind of thing. By the way, there was a lawsuit with the Roseville Galleria that went up to the Third Circuit Court of Appeal in California over, for instance, some situation where you want to hand somebody information. In that case, it was actually talking about religion to people who were patrons of the mall, and that it's being held open to the public, and it was fine to do that because the law wanted to pray with that. But in this case, knowingly approaching without consent. Okay, how do you figure that out? How do you know that you don't have their consent to approach? That's basically trying to tell people stay away from each other at all times. For the purpose of, go to the pertinent part, this is criminalized. Purpose of education. For them knowing. As in, the intent is for those going into the vaccination sites to remain ignorant. Pretty obvious. As I've told some that have been here, some that are in this room, that sometimes folks will tell you implicitly what their real goals are. It's just in a roundabout fashion.
When was this written that has to be 742?
742 was, this year was emergency ordinance once they started doing the mass vaccination sites. This is, I don't know when it was written, but it was signed by the governor in October 2021, and its emergency legislation becomes effective immediately. This is back around the same time that Pam was talking about people were terrorists if they didn't if they wanted to protest outside the mass vaccination sites, including in LA, I believe, by Dodger Stadium.
Wow.
And there was the B ran an article to that effect. Okay. I'll skip over this. Denise handled this. Okay, I'll move on to safety concerns. This is particular to COVID-19. I call them injections. Yes, that is what they are. Surprise injections. So this is what's called the VRBPAC meeting. It's the FDA advisory committee meeting, even though it was attended by others who were from various parts of the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, also. And this meeting in October 22nd, 2020, was about 2 months before anybody in the United States was being injected, right? And at this meeting, for instance, they were discussing coronavirus vaccines in general, right? So just as a conceptual whole, not particularly Pfizer, not particularly Moderna, not particularly, actually, I think J&J wasn't even up for consideration. So, but this, what you see behind me is Stephen Anderson, PhD. His slide number 16 from his presentation, which was a 8-hour and 50-minute meeting that day. This is slide 16. You can see the draft working list of possible adverse event outcomes. Anybody see the heart attack in there? It's the official. I professionally I deal with medical things. The acute myocardial infarction, that's heart attack. That's that rare thing that they tell us now piecemeally. You see the thrombosis in there also that they told us was so rare, but apparently they already knew was on the table back then. Strokes. Who knew death was on the table? You see that? Anybody ever tell you that? Did the TV tell you that? No. What about pregnancy and birth outcomes, given that the California Department of Health actually has on their website, also, for instance, the state of South Dakota, because I looked at them, where they recommend that pregnant women get injected. Did they give anybody this heads up? No. So you can see the various things here. One thing I'm going to mention is autoimmune disease. Anybody's familiar with that, you know that takes years to present. It could be 2 years, 5 years, it could be up to 20. So, and how long are we in now? Not even a year. Of the rollout? Not even a year. We got anaphylaxis, and you can see some of the other ones. But remember the vaccine-enhanced disease. That's going to be a very, very important one. Not that the others aren't important. But my next thing is I wanted to show you, I'm trying to get his name correctly. It's Dr. Tom Shimabukuro, MD, and he's with the CDC. Dr. Anderson was with the FDA, and he had 3 slides of similar what they needed to surveil. This is once they do a rollout of a vaccine, we know that these various things might be on the table, so we need to keep tabs on if these events happen, that kind of thing. I don't know how many are familiar with Thomas Renz and his various lawsuits, and for instance, having to do with Medicare, Medicaid, and databases that they don't tell you on the TV about tens of thousands of people who died within weeks of getting the injection and all that kind of thing. So this has to do with, that's what the VSD is what he's talking about, surveillance of those issues. So, pretty important stuff. Would you say maybe the most important thing if you're a lay person and they're telling you on the TV, safe and effective, go get it? Yeah, I would think so. So here is, and see, I want you to see some of this stuff I'm going to show you, and other things I'm going to put it on you to go find out yourself, not rely on me, because it's your life. So if you want to be informed about it, it's on you. So here is from the FDA's website, as you can see by the URL. You can see by the URL. This is Dr. Anderson's flagship. No, it's not. Oh. Okay. Sorry about that. It's not showing up on the. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So here's what we'll do in the slide. Let me pop out again. 2, 3. Let's do this. In the slideshow. Can you see the video now? Here we go. So here's the meeting. Let's jump to 306. This is Dr. Anderson.
Is it true that one of the people on the FDA left because they didn't agree with the vaccine or the booster?
Two people left
So that is
when it
true.
came to the children. I don't know officially their reason for leaving. Okay, I'm having technical difficulties here, but you can pull it. You can look at the meeting. Long story short, they both double-click past their slides. First was Shibakuru. He double-clicked past his, and then later on, Anderson saying that Shibakura would address it, double-click past his. Make of that what you will. I make very negatively of that. So from there, one thing you need to consider is the issue of, I know this is a downer, but hey, this is what we're facing. Right here. Dealing with people like this. I took the vaccine and I'm fine. My brother would be part of this, by the way. And I'm sure you know many. Right? Okay. vaccine-enhanced disease, I don't know how many are familiar with that, also known as antibody dependent enhancement, disease enhancement, so on and so forth. Basically, it's where you take a vaccine and then actually being vaccinated, you become sicker than when you actually encounter the pathogen than someone who had not taken the vaccine. There's various forms in which it can happen. It's antibody-dependent enhancement is common. That's where your antibodies actually team up with the pathogen and help drag it into your cells. One thing I'm going to address is Th2 inflammatory response, uncontrolled inflammation, where the pathogen is destroyed, but then your immune system goes on to harm the rest of your tissue. That is this. I won't click on it because we're having issues, but if you were to look for immunization with SARS coronavirus vaccine leads to pulmonary immunopathology, that's your lungs tissue being destroyed, on challenge, that's reoccurrence with the pathogen, with the SARS virus. This is back in 2012 when, guess who was funding the study? ADE, with researchers out of Baylor, around Galveston, Texas, where they found when they tried to do the SARS, the original SARS vaccine, that when they tried with mice, they had antibody-dependent, they had Th2 inflammatory response, where basically the lung tissue was being destroyed by the immune system through an overreaction once you come back in contact. You might want to ask yourself, why am I telling you this? And Anthony Fauci isn't? Why am I telling you this and Rand Paul won't go here? Just keep that in mind. Sean Hannity is not telling you this. There's a reason. So. Okay. Lessons for Comirnaty. That's the approved Pfizer BioNTech, BioNTech's Germany, where they have their aftermarket surveillance, and they have it going on in Spain, I believe, and maybe other parts of Europe, and their research as far as what the actual effects are doesn't end until 2026 for anybody who wants to research that and see if I'm lying or not. So what's interesting with the package insert, which you all have your phones, if you do Comirnaty FDA, and you come up with the Comirnaty with the /FDA, you could be right there too, in the website. Go to their website, we've got the Library of Alexandria right in our pockets, and go to package insert. Click on package insert, and you will see the package insert for Comirnaty. The ones in the United States, the J&J, which is Janssen or Janssen, and so on with Pfizer, BioNTech in the United States, and also in Moderna, have no package insert. That is a level of information greater than the fact sheets that they let people see based off of an EUA. If you go and look at these sections, 5.2 on myocarditis and pericarditis, you will see that they know that it's a risk. If you look at 8.1, you will see that with pregnancy, they admit they don't know, and they have a registry so they can track it after the fact that they let everybody have it and told pregnant women to take it. As to 8.2, you will see the admission in writing on the FDA's website that they do not know if the contents of the vaccine pass through to the breast milk. There's a reason you're not seeing this on TV from any station. As to section 13.1, we're talking cancer, mutation, that sort of thing. You can read for yourself. They'll admit, we do not know if this causes cancer. We do not know if this causes mutations. And we do not know, they'll say that as to male fertility, we have no evidence yet. Now, keeping that in mind, this is the stuff that people around the world are trying to mandate, governments. You see, I'm sure you've seen Australia. You know about Austria and various places, that kind of thing. You see the camps for those who have eyes to see. Well, I'm just telling you what folks won't tell you. Okay, you do with it what you will. I know what I do with it, what I will for my family. But I'd like to see a show of hands, for instance, so we can have an understanding of what's going on here. How many people in this room know of somebody in their social or familial circle who died within days of taking one of these vaccines? Look around. Okay? How many people in here in that social circle know of someone who has been injured by it? Now, who knows of somebody who's been injured and the doctors play dumb and don't want to admit this vaccine injury? Okay? How many people are here where there might be somebody who's vaccine injured that's a child and the parent is in denial? That's the reality. That's the reality. Okay? The TV is not going to change it. Politics is not going to change it. Laws are not going to change it. Everybody had a chance to do those fields, drop the ball. It's been 2 years. It's going to be on you. It's going to be on us. Now, I do have some calls to action. But no, let me back up. Sorry. Got ahead of myself. The reason I wanted to mention vaccine-enhanced disease, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you the future. Real quick. This is the future. People are going to get very ill that have been vaccinated. Not all of them, but when we have cold and flu season, 4 of the 7 coronaviruses in the world, that affect humans that we know, are that constitute the common cold. People have now had their immune systems sensitized to overreact. Some of them have had their immune systems now where they are geared up to have the common cold be worse for them and possibly deadly. TV will not tell you this. Government will not tell you this. They all know. There are many people who are scared to say this. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, others. I'm going to say it because it is what it is. It needs to be said. Now, obviously, this is not for your health. This is a bioweapon. Anybody who doesn't want to go there, say it. See, let's say it. It is what it is. It's a bioweapon. Deal with it. Half the country is in la la land. They're in Stockholm syndrome. They can't deal with the decision they made and act like mad drones against you just because you don't want to fall up under these wings of death, basically. That sort of thing. But it is what it is. Right? But it's a bioweapon. I'll say it on video. I don't care who hears. I know certain people will be very upset that I said it. And you know who you are. Well, at least I didn't take it, you did. So, it is what it is. We need to say this. We need to air it out loud. We are under assault.
Amen.
Period. And it is absolutely unacceptable. So anybody a politician is not a leader per se. Any politician who wants to be a leader needs to get out ahead of this. And you might see my slide already about Trump. So I have 3 calls to action. ADE, ADE, ADE. Why? You see all those obnoxious on CNN, MSNBC things of treat your unvaccinated family like trash stuff, advisories, that kind of thing. Well, come this Christmas, be that obnoxious person to do some good. Inform your family about ADE, even the vaccinated ones. Say, I know you've been a jerk to me. You said if I go to the hospital, I should be denied care. I know you do. I have a family member that's like that. Let them know, okay, you're a jerk. I love you still. You're completely wrong. You're going to find out the hard way that I'm right, you knucklehead. Okay? And when you do, repent over it. Period. Okay? And stop trying to blame unvaccinated folks because you made a bad decision. Period. So that's one angle. That's one call to action. To be that obnoxious family member that your family needs. Because if people are going to shove stuff your way, you need to go on offense and shove it out. That means you also need to learn what you're talking about. Crash course, the Highwire, thehighwire.com, Doug Ritchie's website. Type in, search for the show, A.E. segment. Crash course right there. That's all you need. Second part, educate. Here's a big piece. Educational outreach to military, police, firefighters, and paramedics so you don't go the way of Australia and Austria. To get to them ahead of time. Pan let you know, education is what they're scared of. Education is what they're scared of. And by the way, anybody who's got connections to like organizations, military, I'll put it out there right now, military, police, so on, contact me. I will talk, Zoom, in person, so we can convert these people to be patriots and not be duped for this authoritarian, kids in the room, stuff that you're going to try to pull. Because what's going to happen is ADE will kick in the winter, they'll try to blame the unvaccinated, and then send out the troops to forcibly inject folks, and then you got Civil War time. So let's avoid that. Let's educate the troops. Let's let them know that people who run the institutions of this country have betrayed us and them, and that they will stand down and not follow illegal, unconstitutional orders. It's that simple. Talk to your family and military, period. Warn them. Send them that about A.D.E, thehighwire.com. That's why they censor Bell Bigtree. That's why they censor Judy Mikovits. That's why they censor so many people, because the corrupt people who are mass murderers, who are engaged in genocide, you think we're too stupid to figure it out, right? Want to keep people separated and want people to not communicate like serial killers, try to cover them out and go quietly off in the night. That's not us, period. That's not us. The Anti-body Dependent Enhancement. Let's take it. Last thing, this is my challenge because I put country over party. Give Republican politicians a deadline to address the slides with CDC and FDA of known possible side effects. And do it publicly. Especially Trump and the governors, who have all talked about how it's safe and effective, and Trump, how you should take it, that kind of thing. I do not do cult of personality. Period. I do not worship any man. Period. So when that man messes up, I will put it to him. I ask that you do the same.
Okay, so we're literally going to do a timer for Gary. So 2 minutes, because I know all of that's swimming. So would anybody like to ask a question for Gary?
Legislation has nothing to do with what you talked about. I just have a question, because I've heard this spoken. Is there any legislation happening about cameras in the classroom? And this is going to go against teachers' union, which is going to be a huge fight.
I don't know. Not
Okay.
that it isn't the case.
All right.
I'm just not.
That's something that I want to be a part of. That'll come in with my speech.
Sir?
Yeah, so I've heard that they have immunity from lawsuits, the government and the manufacturers of these vaccines. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. It's under the PrEP Act, not the 1986 Act that you normally associate with vaccines, where they also have the immunity. But it's with the PrEP Act from 2005. That is the case. Yeah. He was asking about immunity. He was trying to verify whether or not there's legal immunity as far as the manufacturers, J&J, Moderna, Pfizer, that sort of thing.
Does that include the government though?
Well,
For mandating things?
for mandating, they would claim that they do. So,
But you actually could sue them.
well, good luck with that. Go ask the Supreme Court justice if they'll admit it's a bioweapon. They won't. They won't ever. Let's be honest here. Law's got a problem. Lapdog corporations. Let's be honest about it. Yes, ma'am. We're in a dangerous situation. We just have to admit it to ourselves. We have to admit our institutions have fallen, and it's on us as people. Just get right with God, understand that, be real with yourself.
So there's school districts and the government are just in this nasty cycle of blaming each other. We don't take responsibility, blame it on CDPH. How do we stop that cycle legislatively?
But it isn't legislatively. The only thing that's going to beat this is mass non-compliance. That's the only thing that's going to beat this. Everybody's getting, being given the runaround, let's put it to you that way. Okay, we're 2 years in. This is intended to go far longer than that and get far worse.
I've never heard of an emergency that lasted 2 years.
Yeah, this only stops when there's mass non-compliance.
So I can interject real quick, because there's an example of mass non-compliance, and there's an example of pushback that happened in December of last year. I see your hand, Jack. That happened in December of last year with the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. They were trying to, Health Services had an enforcement ordinance that they brought forward, a resolution that was gonna fine $500 to $10,000 to businesses if somebody was caught without a mask in their store. And there were other stipulations, and it went so far as they could arrest and they could take property. And so there were a lot of groups that lobbied. The Stand Up Sacramento County was there, the business associations, the taxpayer associations, all of these organizations latched onto that. All the different chambers in Sacramento sent in, there were over 3,000 emails. There were over 100 phone calls that day for public comment. There were 50 plus people. You know, that was active COVID time. People would not show up, but they were on the phone. There were over 50 people there. It never went to a vote. Health Services pulled that resolution. It has not come back yet. So this is where we're educating ourselves. We're teaming up together. We're bringing ourselves together to form community, but we have to have the action piece. So when Gary's saying all we have less is mass noncompliance, yes. Now, the lawsuits are important, right? So there's that piece sliding through. They take time. We don't have time. So you cannot say, petition the school board and say, I don't want to mask my children anymore, and then send them with a mask on. It doesn't make sense. We're way past that. Jack, you had your hand up?
Yeah, a question for Gary. Turn your mic on, Jack. Can you hear me now? Yep. So the manufacturers of the vaccine have immunity.
Correct.
So what happens, I'm an employer of a big company, and I tell all my employees, you gotta get vaccinated or I'm gonna fire you. So one of my employees takes the vaccine. You mentioned the VAERS. You were talking about the adverse activities that are going on for people that are taking the vaccine. I mean, thousands and thousands of people are dying within days of taking the vaccine.
Yes, I know.
So one of my employees takes the vaccine, and he dies the next day. Do I have immunity?
Well, in California, come this next session, there'd probably be attempts to make sure that you have immunity so that you could try to strong arm your employees more into it, right? Everybody knows about OSHA, real quick. OSHA, where they don't want you to report if it's required of your employer. If there is a side effect and you required it, OSHA for a year and a half or so is saying that they don't want you to report. Their rule is that they are not going to enforce their own rule so that they can undermine worker safety, which is their primary purpose for existence. This is evil. We know psychopaths are behind us. Period. Just face it. We got a long road ahead. Last thing I do want to say on the bioweapon side, that kind of thing, I know I'll be very fast. 2 names you want to write down. Dr. David Martin. Watch every video you can with him.
Yep.
Dr. David Martin. Get learning fast. Send it to everybody you know. They need to watch these videos. Dr. David Martin as fast as you can. Okay. Another one on the Stu Peters show, regular returning guest, very informed woman, Karen Kingston, I believe. Watch every episode that she is on. Learn that this is a patented bioweapon where people are actually making money because they hold the international patents to its design. Okay? Karen Kingston, she shows up on the Stu Peters show repeatedly. K-I-N-G, S-T-O-N is their last name. It's regular spelling, Karen. Actually, Dr. David Martin. You want to watch everything you can find of them and absorb it like a sponge and pass it on over and over and over again.
It's on Rumble.
But yes, on Rumble. That's on Rumble. It's Stu Peters show with Karen Kingston. You will find out all the patents. You will find out the patents for the COVID tracking systems that are behavioral control systems and admitted in the patents. That also, as the examples in them, punish you for going to church. So that's the situation we're in.
Junior too.
Oh, Robert Kennedy Jr. also.
He said Robert Kennedy Jr. too. Okay, so I'm sorry, I know there's more questions. We might be able to grab them at the end. We are running way off schedule. And thank you. No, Gary, that was amazing. Thank you. So for those that, we're going to go past noon. For those that are heading out, the red table to the right of the door, please put your email there if you would like to be on the listserv for Stand Up Sacramento County. We are going to poke Gary and see if pieces of this slide can be sent by email, what he gives us permission to. And then we are streaming live on Facebook for Stand Up Sacramento County, so we can send you a link for that. And then for action items to the red tablecloth. And I'm going to pass it to